Let me just give you a number, and you tell me if it's respectful or disrespectful either way. Georgia is laying 5.5 v. Alabama in Atlanta on Saturday. What does that number mean to you?
I think that number speaks strictly to the one advantage on a unit, which is the offensive unit for Georgia. Though Alabama's offense has sort of peaked over the last, month or so, it hasn't been consistently as dominant and as consistently as great and efficient as Georgia's offense has been. Defensively, man, I can't separate the two. I know the stats can be separated between the two, but when you watch them on film, just body to body, guy for guy, they look relatively identical in terms of talent and how elite they are on the defensive side of the football. So I think that 5.5-point spread just goes to show, man, like this Georgia football team has been a top 5 offense with regards to efficiency all year. A lot of people will say that they haven't really played, a top 10 defense, whereas Alabama hovers around that top 15 range defensively. So it really is a pretty interesting matchup in terms of strengths.
Okay. Of course, Brooks, you also have the Film Guy Network on YouTube, which is awesome. A lot of great learning information there. You talked about the 3 things Georgia must do to beat Alabama. Let's discuss those 3 things. Before you get into the 3 in particular, how's Georgia's health going into Saturday?
There's the questions about Brock Bowers and McConkey and Tate Ratledge and Ra Thomas and Jamon Dumas-Johnson, and there's a bunch, right? There's 5 starters on the front of it right there, just offensively and defensively. 4 of those guys playing the offensive side of the football. I expect, Brock Bowers and Tate Ratledge to go. They dressed last week, and they've been participating in practice, it sounds like. It's McConkey and Ra Thomas are the ones that are, quote-unquote, questionable entering this football game. I expect both football players to give it a go, if you will. It's definitely with an ankle injury like what McConkey has. A lot of tape and a lot of, rehab going into that one, going into that football game. So I expect him to be, about 90%, I would say, 85-90% there. I don't expect Pop, the linebacker, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, to play probably until late December, early January, assuming they play in that time of the year.
Brooks, the evolution of Carson Beck, you and I discussed, I want to say it was week 4 of the season, and it was kind of vanilla on offense. But as the season went on, it seemed the playbook opened up. How much does he need Bowers? Does he need McConkey to be the guy that we saw putting up the bigger stats later in the season?
I mean, he survived the stretch, midway through the year, 3/4 way through the year, where Bowers was out for 2 games against, I think it was Florida and Missouri. That Missouri matchup, top 10 matchup, he goes into that game without Bowers. And, I think they moved the ball relatively well offensively, and he answered the bell and answered the questions. The thing is about Carson, and Kirby spoke to this throughout the year, he's pretty consistently been the same guy all year long. And what that guy is the person who makes the right decision time in and time out and just operates within the offense. And I think when you look for an advantage in this football game, Alabama, guys, to me, is very, very schematically simple. They kind of just line up and play football because they can, because they have guys in every other matchup all year long that are just physically better than the man across from them. Well, that's not going to be the case every single down in this football game. When it comes to schematics, how multiple are you? Can you do a lot of things? Can you win a game in a multiple facets? That favors Georgia a ton in this matchup. They're just schematically a little bit more diverse than what Alabama has shown to be this year on both sides of the football.
So we saw it in 21. Brooks Austin joining us. We're talking Georgia, Alabama. If we have time, we can get to some of the other championship games as well. We saw it in 21. Georgia came in favored in that one, and Saban absolutely put a beat down on Kirby and Georgia. Confidence-wise, like there was confidence for Georgia going into that one. It doesn't feel like the confidence is equal here. What would you say if I painted it that way?
I mean, I think they feel like a confident bunch. They're just not flashy, man. And they don't talk, and it's not one of those things. The only thing I think that might portray some lack of confidence is just a vagueness with regards to the reporting on all the injuries. They are a banged up football team, man. But so is Bama on the other side of the football. When I talk to people inside the building and around the program, I mean, they're confident as they always are. They go in and play to the quote unquote standard. All the cliche stuff, I think, is why it really comes to fruit and comes to bear at this time of the year, because you can go and play to the full speed and the nature and ignore all the distractions because you're so brain beat into just playing to the standard and keeping the main thing, and all the coach speak in the world. They truly live that in and out of that building. I think both of these programs do, to be honest with you.
You mentioned watching this Alabama offense on tape, Brooks. What are you seeing from Jalen Morrow, and how do you think this Georgia defense matches up? You know, they've lost so much talent over the last few years to the NFL draft. I believe 34 players drafted the NFL. I think 8 were first round from the defensive side of the football over that time. How does this squad match up as currently put together versus what Milrow's been able to do over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I was fascinated going back to that simplistic nature of both of these, offense and defense from Alabama. I went and charted every single snap against LSU because I was curious. I had a theory. I think he's more of a scrambler than he is a design runner, meaning I think they just let him get loose, or a lot of teams can't get him down when he scrambles, so he takes off chunk plays. They don't do a ton of design runs. That was my thought. So I went and charted every single rep against LSU. And of the 20 that's a career high in rushing attempts. Of the 20 attempts, 12 of them were scrambles. A 13th was a quarterback sneak on one of those Philadelphia, brotherly shove type plays. And then the other 7 were indeed like quarterback read option type stuff. We're a sprint option type of actual, hey, we're adding him into the run count. But they don't move him a ton. He drops from the same spot every single time. I think that's by design. So when you talk about advantages or what's the key or anything like that, hey, when this guy gets out of the pocket, we have to make sure he's doing so running around our defensive line, right? We can't let him get out of the pocket going straight through it. You cannot let this guy get north and south immediately, because he will be and is the most electric football player on the field when that happens.
Okay, so you broke down the tape, both Georgia and Alabama. Brooks Austin, time for a prediction. Let's go. Walk me through it.
Yeah, I think Georgia's been consistently better on both sides of the football this year. The only way Alabama, in my opinion, wins this football game, it's a 24-18, just slobber knocker, ugly. Alabama's defense looks like the best unit in college football. I think more likely I'm leaning more towards like a 34-21, Georgia controls the ball game type of performance from Georgia. They're really good offensively, man. I'm excited to see them actually have to play something other than vanilla. You mentioned them being vanilla offensively, and their schedule's been so that they can kind of be that way all year long. I'm excited to see what they can do.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.